Here comes the judge, Judge Dawson, your Yogi judge, and this is another cycle breaker session where I'm trying to empower you and give you some tools that you can use to just better your life. Look, no one wants to be stuck in a rut, and oftentimes we'll find ourselves in ruts, but what we need to do is then look in our tool bag and determine what is it in there that I could use that can get me out of this situation and that can take me to the next level. So today I want to talk to you briefly about a couple of things. One of them is your energy. Your energy. Your energy is so important to what you achieve in your life. And there's good energy and there's bad energy. Well, let me start with the story that happened in my courtroom just recently. So in the city of East Cleveland, where we are trying so hard to dig ourselves out of a lifestyle and mindset of poverty. And let's keep it real. I'm from the city, so I know the city has been a much better place in years past. And we have to work hard to get us back to that glory. Part of that is changing our mentality about the city. So what am I doing as a judge to try and add to that, or at least deter some of the craziness? One is we're getting really serious about those who litter in the city. Now, you may think littering is not a big deal, but it is a big deal, because when you're trying to clean up your mindset, when you're trying to change your environment, it's going to be harder when you look around and there's garbage and debris everywhere. And that's not only in your physical city, that's in your life. So if you live in a house where there's debris and garbage everywhere, it's going to be hard for you to change and make it to your highest potential. If you are in a relationship where there is garbage and debris everywhere, it's going to be hard for you to be your absolute best person in that relationship until you get some of that garbage out. That garbage could be old mindsets. That garbage could be certain people. That garbage could be the person that you're trying so hard to stay with. Because remember, you want to achieve your best life. We're not here forever. So while we're here, why don't we make the best of it? So you want to take an inventory of your area, of your life, of your neighborhood, and determine what garbage you need to get rid of. And then you have to get serious about littering. That means people dumping and throwing things in the environment that you're trying to clean. So let's go back to the city of East Cleveland. We're working very hard to change that mentality. So if you are caught littering in the city, you're going to have a maximum fine and you're going to spend some time in jail. Because I find it deplorable in the city that I live in, the city that I work in, the city that I was born and raised in, the city I love, that people will ride down the street, roll down their window and just throw a bag out. I mean, it's ridiculous. You wouldn't do that at your home, or then again, you might if you're the type of person that would do it in the city. So we have these high penalties. But then just recently, speaking with the executive branch, the mayor and his team, there is a decision that the city would now like to pursue forfeitures of your vehicle if you dump. Now think of that, ladies and gentlemen. Think of your penalty. If you dump in the city of East Cleveland, and I'm sure it's like this in many other cities, you may lose your car. Now for me, that is a very high penalty. You work every day, all day, trying to just get your transportation. Some of you have worked hard just to get your license back together. And then you do something as silly as dumping and you can lose your entire vehicle. Well, that's the penalty. And that really quickly goes to what I do, not only in these workshops and my podcast and my Dose of Positivity email and all the books that I write. I'm trying to inform you of how to avoid negative interaction with the legal system. The first step is you have to know the laws in the city that you are operating in. So if you are in the city of East Cleveland and you are dumping, you now know that not only will you possibly get your vehicle taken, I mean, that's terrible, but you're going to get a maximum fine and you will serve time in jail. So that is the penalty right now for dumping. Now, how does that relate to the topic of energy? Well, I'm glad you asked. So I'm in court handling my regular cases, and my bailiff brings to my attention that there is a dumping case that's going to be coming up pretty shortly. And, we get a chance to communicate a little bit because he likes to make sure that I am aware of the cases that are coming before me. So he says, Judge, I want you to know that there's a dumping case. And remember the conversation that the mayor had with you the other day when he came down in the courtroom and pretty much begged the court to get even harder on people who are dumping in our city. So my bailiff said, hey, Judge, I just want to remind you of that. And remember, there was a discussion about taking vehicles. And I just want to let you know that there's a plea deal coming before you that doesn't address it at all. They're not talking about the vehicle. They're not mentioning it that the city wants it. And I just want you to know that so you'll be aware of what you need to do. So I'm going through my cases. And of course, like I said, energy, it goes up and down, but it's so important to how we achieve and what we achieve and how we relate to people. Remember, we're talking about energy, right? So my energy is going up and down. And I think when you are trying to reach your highest potential, when you're trying to be as successful as you need to be, you have to also not only monitor your energy, but you have to monitor other people's energy, right? Because you have to decide how you're going to interact with that next person. And you have to decide whether or not that person is important enough for you to even care about their energy. So as I first began, I said, look, if you take a personal inventory of your life, you may find that there are things in your life that you need to get rid of because it's garbage and it's dumping. So if that's the situation, you may not even care about the energy of that particular person or thing because you're getting rid of it. Now, let's switch over to a courtroom scenario. You are standing before a judge. You need to know the energy that that judge has because when the judge calls your case next, you want to know how to interact with the judge. And that's a quick analysis of energy. Now, I would go on to say that the same thing applies when you're out here on the street dealing with these officers. And I don't want you to, think, hey, Judge Dawson is pro officer or pro anything. I'm just pro you being the best that you can be. So when I tell you that an officer, when he walks up to your car, for your safety to make sure that you're going to make it home that night, I would look at the officer and I would try to gauge his energy really quickly so I can know whether or not this officer means me harm or if he's just doing his job. Because if the officer means to do me harm, then I need to do every single thing I can to get home because that's my objective. My objective is not to argue with the officer, to let him know that I'm a man and let him know that I have rights. That's all good and you can do that later. But right now, I want to get home. So I'm going to read his energy so it can tell me how to act. So here we are, back to my court scenario. I'm going through all my cases. My energy is going up and down, and it's up to this guy who's going to come before me to think about this. How is the judge's energy before my case is called? So I call his case. We're talking about the issue of dumping. Now, let me tell you this. When somebody litters in your house, in your life, in your mind, in your community, it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. This guy kept saying, hey, Judge, I made an honest mistake. I didn't mean to litter. Well, how did you not mean to litter? Did you physically take something off your truck and dump it or place it somewhere that was not your location? If you did that, you littered and you meant to do it, unless you were sleepwalking. And if you can sleepwalk and move something as big as a couch, then you need to pick up another career. Your future is not in whatever you're doing. Your future is being a strong man or something like that. So the first problem I had with was this guy refused to accept responsibility and told me that it was a mistake, an honest mistake. So right there, my energy is changing because I'm like, okay, I got to have a guy in front of me. He's not taking responsibility and it's going to change my energy. Now, the next thing that happened is as he continued to try to defend himself, he started calling me man over and over again. Now, I normally don't have a problem with that, but remember, I'm a judge. I worked hard to get to this position. I've been a legal professional for over 20 years. So I at least deserve the respect of being called judge when you're hoping that I'm going to look out for you. But instead, he's like, man. I'm like, okay. And I let it go for a minute. Then I say, look, sir, you're going to have to call me judge. I'm respecting you, so respect me. So again, there's a shift in my energy. So we start to talk about the possible penalties that he's facing for this dumping. And he begins to get emotional because he feels that, hey, his car has been in the impound for a few days, and now he's standing before the judge, and the city is asking me to take his vehicle. Now, the funny thing about that, even though the city prosecutor is asking for the vehicle to be taken, he's not blaming the city prosecutor. All he's doing is looking at me. Judge Dawson's trying to take my vehicle. In fact, he kept saying, you guys, y'all, the police and you. And I said, hey, I don't work for the police. They don't work for me. We're not in cahoots together. I'm just here to enforce and actually bring the law home as to what you did or didn't do. So we go through that. But the point of the matter is this. His energy was terrible. His energy was terrible for a person who was asking me to do him a favor. See, I sat there with the power to take his vehicle. That's just the blessing of the position, right? But his energy was so negative that it almost gave me no choice. And think about you in your life. How many times are you dealing with someone who has the power to change your life for better or for worse? How are you dealing with them? And are you giving them good energy, or is your ego too big to give the energy that you need to achieve the goals that you have? If you're in the bank and you're trying to get a loan, what type of energy are you going to give to the loan officer? If you are in the store trying to check out and you want to get home because your kid is waiting for you, what type of energy are you going to give the clerk? Because remember, when you give that negative energy, it all goes bad. People assert their power and they make you wait, or they make you suffer. I mean, that's just the reality, right? I mean, how many times have you blown your horn to somebody who's in front of you? You're on a one-way street and you blow, and what do? They slow down. They don't go faster. Then you two start throwing up middle fingers at each other and waving and thinking about pulling over. It just gets terrible and the suffering begins. So my suggestion to you today is to make sure you are bringing positive energy to any situation where you want to win. Your energy is so important. Your energy can actually change the dynamic of the room. Imagine in that case I had in court. Imagine if that young man got up and said, good morning, Judge Dawson. How are you today? I see you, have had some crazy cases, but I just want to get my case resolved. Well, sir, what's your name? And he tells me his name and we go through and he says, Judge Dawson, I accept responsibility for what I did wrong. And I understand the city is asking for my vehicle, but I need my vehicle, Judge. I need to make a living. I need to get my kids from A to B. Can you imagine what that would do? That type of energy? I'd sit back like, okay, this man did learn from his situation and he deserves a break. But when you walk up there with the opposite, swag, calling me man, saying that you made a mistake, I shouldn't take your vehicle. Come on now, that energy is going to give me energy. People say it all the time. I'm going to treat you the way you treat me, or the energy you give is the energy you get. Now, that's not how it should be, but we're all human beings. So remember, try to give your absolute best energy, because when you give your best energy, you will receive the best outcome. The next level to having good energy and using your energy to get you where you want to go and be the best you can be is knowing when and how to use the power of calm. See, good energy doesn't mean that you're always rah, ready to fight or ready to jump out your seat. That's just a form of good energy. Good energy could also be that quiet positivity that just oozes from your body when you're in the presence of someone else. Good energy could be the fact that instead of frowning at somebody, you just smile at them. Good energy could be that head nod when you're walking down the hall instead of frowning or looking the other way. So keep in mind, good energy doesn't always have to be excited energy, but good energy could also be calm positivity. So let me give you an example of how calm positivity changed the world. If you are aware of Nelson Mandela, you know that he's a historical figure, South African leader who changed the world a couple of times. See, a lot of people who study Mandela are not aware of the beginning of his life. Not only did he grow up in a privileged scenario, privileged for South Africa at that time, but he also went to school and became a lawyer. So when he was in the midst of the revolution and trying to change the laws, he really had the knowledge of a lawyer behind him. He wasn't just a rebel rouser. He wasn't just a person out trying to fight. necessarily, that he would not dissuade his followers from using. That's a good way to put it, right? But mostly he would use his mind. But the early Mandela, not only did he use his mind, but he used some action. So a lot of people don't realize, because we caught up with Mandela, most of us, at least me, when he became older, after he spent a lot of time in jail and he got out. But early on, he was very feisty. In fact, he was the leader of a group that was really considered at that time a terrorist organization, because they were against the government and they would use any means necessary to fight the government and to achieve their means. So he was not the peaceful Mandela in the beginning that we all grew to love. He was a man of vigor. He was a man that would fight, and he argued, and he made sure that you realized his energy was going to be aggressive energy. Now, fast forward to the Mandela that we saw once he got out of prison. There's one story about Mandela receiving a letter from someone who heard one of his speeches when he got out. And the young lady said, you know, your speech was great. It was eloquent. I understood everything you were saying, but your speech was boring. And Mandela would often tell that story and laugh, because he couldn't believe that after all that he'd been through, after all the fighting, all the destruction and everything that he had participated in his later years, he was called boring in the way that he addressed the government. But he was fine with that, because it wasn't by mistake that he became quote unquote boring or calm. It was by design. See, all the years that he spent in isolation, all the years that he spent in prison, all the years where he suffered, and believe me, when he was in prison, he suffered. And I'm not sure if you've heard the stories, but his jail cell was very small. He was only allowed, I think, of one visitor a year or something crazy like that. He didn't have a real bed. He had a cot and a table and a flower and some books to read. So when we talk about poor conditions, he had some of the worst conditions known to man. And not only was he living in this very small confined area, he was a taller gentleman. So he was cramped into these quarters. But the legend has it that every time he had a chance to get out of his quarters, he would go for a long walk or maybe even a jog. And oftentimes you would look into his quarters and you would find him working out and exercising, because he was dead set on maximizing his time and controlling his mind through calmness and controlling his energy. In fact, they would say the only time that they really ever saw him get upset was when one of the guards was disrespecting his wife. And then he raised his voice and got really upset. But over the years, he developed a calmness about himself that lasted through his jail term and when he got out. So, when he was out, some of the people in South Africa didn't like his calmness. They thought that maybe he was too calm to, take over the government and lead the African people where they wanted to be. So they chose a different leader. And in fact, there were two leaders at the same time. And there was this one situation where Mandela would get up every morning and go for a long walk, and he was with his bodyguards as normal. And he was with a reporter who was following him during this particular time of his life. And as they were walking, it was about a 2-hour walk, and they finally made it back home. And Mandela was called into the house. And as soon as he sat down for breakfast, his assistant and his team said, "Hey, remember, there's a soccer team outside. They wanted to see you. They wanted to meet you, and you promised them you would give them a few moments of your time." So he got up, went outside, and met with them. Now, here's the story. While in the meeting with these soccer players, he received a phone call. He came in, took the phone call, and as he was listening, the people around him could tell something had happened. They were told that the other leader, the one that was more aggressive, the one that was more stern, was murdered, assassinated. And Mandela was very mad about it, because though he was a leader too, he didn't want the other guy to die. I mean, they're African brothers, right? They're all fighting for the same cause. They just have different approaches to it. But what's interesting about it is they said that Mandela then got himself together, went back outside, continued to meet with these men from the soccer team, smiling, shaking hands, and you couldn't even tell anything went on, because he was able to control his emotions. And again, that's something that he developed while he was in prison, because keep it real, when you're in prison, you don't have a lot of control, so you have to control yourself, right? You can't control what the guards do, so you better control how you react to them. So here's another instance where he tried and was successful with controlling his emotions. Later on that evening, he went on to address the country on television. And again, he was very calm, very direct, very succinct about what the Africans needed to do to unify the country. So that goes back to my point. When you are trying to be successful, oftentimes it's not that aggressive energy that's going to do it for you. Not only do you have to have energy, but you have to learn how to calm it down, mold it, and use it in a way where it will be to your advantage and not to your detriment. In my cycle breaker workshops, I like to mention that when you lose control, you lose. Yeah, that's it. When you lose control, you lose. Because no matter how far down the line you think you won the situation, you won the argument, you got your point across. What type of damage did you do while you were trying to achieve that goal? Did you actually win? Did you actually achieve your goal through your act of lack of self-control? So again, keep in mind that being calm is the way to control the situation. And if we go all the way back to that court situation that I had the other day, the young man didn't want his vehicle taken, and I can understand that. But if he had approached it with a sense of calmness and positive energy, his outcome would have been totally different. And you know what else they say about being calm? Calm is attractive. And I don't mean that in a way that, you're going to get the guy, you're going to get the girl because you're being calm. I'm not even thinking about that. That stuff will come, right? I'm talking about the fact that when you are calm, you will attract opportunities to you. See, everybody looks for the calm person or the leader, right? Or the leader to be calm. So when things are going crazy around you and everyone's insane, guess what? You standing there with a sense of calm and a sense of confidence in your ability, or at least playing it off until you get there, that's going to bring opportunities your way. They're going to say, you know what, it's something about that guy. It's something about that young lady. They are exuding leadership because they are calm in the midst of all this chaos. So when I say that calm is attractive, what I mean is that you will bring opportunities to you that you don't even realize. When I was running for judge, there were many people who were attacking me on the left, attacking me on the right. Nobody thought I should run. And then the few people that thought I should run really didn't think I could win. Let's keep it real. There were very few people who thought I could actually win as judge. But in the midst of all that, in the midst of all those attacks, all those days that I felt depleted and everything was going to hell around me, I stayed calm. And I believe it was in those moments where people looked at me and said, you know what, maybe this guy, maybe Dawson can be a judge. Maybe we should vote for him. Because look how he's handling all of this negative energy coming at him. Look how he's handling all this chaos, all the things they claim and they say on the internet and they write all these crazy allegations and just ways of just trying to hate, right? But I stayed calm through it all. I stayed prayed up. I stayed tooled up, meaning I knew what I needed to do. I had the tools to make it happen. Or if I didn't know how to do it, and if I didn't have the tools, I knew who I would go to. And best believe it would have been somebody who's calm and confident in their abilities. So I stayed calm through all of that stuff. And luckily, by the grace of God, I was elected to be the judge. But the same thing applies to you right now in your situation. Not only will your calmness attract good people to you, your calmness will get rid of the bad people. It really will. Your calmness will make people say, you know what, I can't be around that person because the fact that they're not losing their mind, I don't even like being around them. I mean, I'm telling you, believe it or not, imagine this scenario. Someone's arguing with you. They want to get their point across. And you keep saying, okay, I understand. I understand your point of view. That's going to get them mad, right? And eventually it's going to calm them down, shut them up, or make them leave. So your being calm will win all the time. Now, there's times, of course, when you need to be excited. Your energy needs to be excited. You need to run. You need to go. But that doesn't mean you're not calm about it. And being calm doesn't mean you're not going to be nervous. All the great people, when they do what they do, they're nervous. LeBron James, he gets butterflies before the games. Kobe Bryant, he was getting nervous before some of his big games and before some of the shots, but he had the sense of calm running through his veins, that Mamba mentality, right? That calmness, that ready to strike because he knew he was prepared. So I suggest to you, as we conclude and we end this session, not only do you monitor your energy to make sure that your energy is on such a level that it will work for you and not against you. Remember, positive energy will do nothing but bring great things to you. And when I say positive energy, again, I'm not talking about aggressive, ready to fight. I'm talking about upbeat, happy, enjoyable, engaging. That's positive energy versus negative energy, where you're always talking about what's bad, what you don't like, what you hate, being mean, scowl on your face. That will bring you nothing but negativity. So again, monitor your energy. The second one is try to determine the energy that's around you, because some things you need to get rid of. If it's right in your house, get rid of that waste, get rid of that litter. Don't let people dump on you. And then on the other hand, find out if there's energy that you need to be attracted to or energy that you need to be drawn to, because that energy can help you achieve your goals. If you're dealing with a great judge, give that judge good energy. It will work out to your benefit. And then after we deal with our energy, you identify your energy, you change your energy state, you gain calmness. That is the key that will take you to your next level of success. When everything is going bad around you, when things aren't going the way you want them to go, remain calm, collected, and you will win. Thanks for joining me. Go out there and be cycle breakers. Let's go.